The glass left her hand before anyone could stop her. It shattered against Ethan Rowe's chest, red wine splashing across his white shirt like a wound. Gasps rippled through the ballroom, 100 conversations collapsing into stunned silence as every eye turned toward them. Alina Voss didn't flinch. Her breathing was sharp, controlled, but her voice cut through the silence like a blade. "You think you can stall my company and hide behind silence?" she said, her eyes burning into his. "You're nothing but a parasite feeding off real work." Ethan didn't move immediately. The wine dripped slowly from his collar, staining the marble floor beneath him. For a moment, it looked like he might retaliate, or at least defend himself. Instead, he reached into his pocket, pulled out a folded handkerchief, and calmly wiped his face. "Some things," he said quietly, his voice steady despite the humiliation, "are worth delaying." A murmur swept through the crowd. Alina's jaw tightened. "You're costing us billions," she snapped. "Do you even understand what you're doing?" Ethan met her gaze, something unreadable behind his eyes. "Yes," he said simply. "I do." And then, without another word, he turned and walked away, leaving behind whispers, judgment, and a silence far louder than the shattered glass. Weeks earlier, Ethan had been standing in a very different room, holding a very different kind of silence. The hospital monitor had gone flat, its long, continuous tone echoing in his ears long after the machine was turned off. He stood there, frozen, staring at Mara's still face, as if refusing to believe what he was seeing. "No," he whispered, shaking his head. "No. You promised me, you said we had more time." But promises didn't survive reality. Her hand was still warm when he held it, still familiar, still hers. But she was gone. "I'm still here," he said, his voice breaking as he leaned closer. "Mara, I'm still here. You can't just leave me like this." There was no answer. Only silence. Everything that followed felt like a slow collapse. The company he had built from nothing, the one that had once made headlines, disappeared piece by piece as he sold it off to pay for treatments that never worked. Friends stopped calling. Investors moved on. The world kept spinning. But Ethan didn't. He stayed. For Noah. "Dad," the boy had asked one night, his small voice cutting through the darkness of their quiet apartment. "Is Mom coming back?" Ethan had paused at the doorway, gripping the frame tighter than he realized. "No," he said gently, forcing the word out. "But she's still with us. Just in a different way." Noah frowned. "That doesn't make sense." Ethan managed a faint smile. "Yeah," he said. "I know." Havenbridge House didn't look like much from the outside. The paint was fading, the fence slightly crooked, but inside, it was alive. Children's laughter filled the halls. Shoes were scattered near the entrance. Drawings covered the walls, bright, messy, hopeful. Ethan tightened a loose screw on a bunk bed as one of the younger boys hovered nearby. "Is it going to fall again?" the boy asked nervously. "Not if I do my job right," Ethan replied, glancing up with a small smile. "What do you think? Can you trust me?" The boy hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, I think so." "Good," Ethan said, tightening the last screw. "Because I don't like doing things twice." A voice called from across the room. "Ethan, we're short on supplies again." He stood up, wiping his hands on his jeans. "I'll figure something out." He always did. What he didn't expect was to find the answer buried inside a document that wasn't meant for him to notice. The merger contract had been thick, dense, filled with legal language designed to hide more than it revealed. But Ethan had spent years building a company from the ground up. He knew how to read between the lines. And then he saw it. A single clause. Short. Quiet. Devastating. Post-merger restructuring would result in the liquidation of non-essential philanthropic assets, including Havenbridge House. Ethan stared at the words, reading them again and again as if they might change. "No," he whispered. 800 children. Gone. Displaced. Erased like an afterthought. He leaned back in his chair, his mind racing. "They don't even know," he muttered. "They don't even realize what this means." His phone buzzed. A message from the legal team. "We're expecting your signature by Friday." Ethan stared at the screen. Not happening, he said under his breath. The first delay was polite. I just need more time to review the terms, he told them during the call. Alina's voice came through sharp and impatient. You've had the documents for weeks. And I'm still reviewing them, Ethan replied calmly. There was a pause. You're holding up a billion-dollar deal. And you're rushing one, he said. That's not the same thing. The second delay wasn't as polite. You're being unreasonable, one of the executives snapped during a meeting. Ethan leaned back in his chair. No, he said evenly. I'm being careful. Alina's eyes narrowed. Careful doesn't cost this much money. Maybe it should, he shot back. The room went still. Excuse me, she said, her tone dropping dangerously. Ethan leaned forward slightly, his voice quieter now, but more intense. Maybe if more people were careful, fewer things would get destroyed in the name of progress. Her expression hardened. You're out of line. And you're not asking the right questions, he replied. That was the moment she decided she didn't like him. By the third delay, she was done pretending. Sign the deal, she told him bluntly over the phone. Or step aside. Ethan stared out the window, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. I can't do that, he said. Can't, she repeated. Or won't. Both. There was a long silence. You're making a mistake, she said finally. Ethan closed his eyes briefly. No, he said. I'm trying to fix one. The gala had been her breaking point. Public pressure was mounting. Investors were asking questions. The media had started circling. And Ethan Rowe, the quiet, stubborn man who refused to explain himself, had become the problem she couldn't control. So she confronted him. And lost control instead. The next morning, the headlines were brutal. CEO loses composure at charity gala. Billion-dollar deal in jeopardy. Who is Ethan Rowe? Alina stood in her office, staring at the screen as her assistant shifted nervously nearby. We need damage control, the assistant said carefully. Alina didn't respond immediately. Instead, she replayed the moment in her head. The glass. The silence. His words. Some things are worth delaying. Her fingers tapped lightly against the desk. Schedule a visit, she said suddenly. The assistant blinked. A visit? To Havenbridge House, Alina clarified. If the media wants a story, we'll give them one. But as she said it, something about the decision didn't feel entirely strategic. It felt personal. And she wasn't sure why. The first thing Alina noticed when she stepped into Havenbridge House was the noise. Not the polished, curated kind she was used to at corporate events, but real noise. Laughter echoing off worn walls. Shoes thudding across old wooden floors. Someone arguing loudly over a missing crayon. She paused just inside the doorway, her heels suddenly feeling too sharp, too loud for a place like this. This way, a staff member said gently. Alina nodded, straightening slightly as she stepped further in. Her eyes moved quickly, taking everything in, the peeling paint, the patched furniture, the crowded rooms. This place needs restructuring, she murmured under her breath. And yet, a voice replied behind her, calm and familiar. It's still standing. She turned. Ethan. He stood a few feet away, sleeves rolled up, a faint smudge of paint on his wrist. No suit. No boardroom presence. Just present. You followed me? She asked, her tone guarded. He shook his head slightly. I'm here every day. Her eyes narrowed. Of course you are. A child ran past them, nearly colliding with Ethan before stopping abruptly. Sorry, the girl said, breathless. Ethan crouched slightly. No damage done, he said with a small smile. Where are you headed in such a hurry? The reading room, she said excitedly. We got new books. That's a big deal, he replied. Go claim your spot before someone else does. She grinned and dashed off. Alina watched the exchange, something unreadable flickering across her face. You remember their names? She asked quietly. Most of them, Ethan said. I try to. That's inefficient, she said, though her voice lacked its usual sharpness. Depends on what you think matters, he replied. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Alina crossed her arms. Let's not pretend, she said. You're not just here to volunteer. You're here to make a point. Ethan met her gaze. No, he said simply. I'm here because they need someone. And you're the only one who cares, she challenged. I didn't say that, he replied. But I am one of the few who knows what's coming. Her expression shifted, just slightly. What exactly is that supposed to mean? Ethan exhaled slowly. You really don't know, do you? Know what? She pressed. He studied her for a moment, as if deciding whether to speak. Walk with me, he said. She hesitated, then followed. He led her down a narrow hallway lined with drawings, stick figures holding hands, houses with crooked roofs, suns smiling too brightly. They made these, he said. Most of them don't remember where they came from. Some don't want to. Alina's fingers brushed lightly against one of the drawings as she walked. What does this have to do with the merger? Ethan stopped. Then he turned to face her fully. It has everything to do with it, he said. She frowned. Explain. He reached into his bag and pulled out a folded set of documents, handing them to her. Clause 14b, he said. Read it. Alina unfolded the papers, her eyes scanning quickly at first, then slowing, then stopping. Her brow furrowed. No, she murmured. Ethan didn't speak. This isn't, she continued, flipping the page as if the words might rearrange themselves. This can't be right. It is, he said quietly. Her voice sharpened. Why wasn't I told? Because it's buried, Ethan replied. Designed that way. Her grip tightened on the paper. Non-essential assets, she read aloud, her tone growing colder. They classified this place as non-essential? Yes. She stopped, her jaw tightening. That's not what this foundation is. No, Ethan agreed. It's not. She looked up at him, anger flickering behind her eyes. But this time, it wasn't directed at him. How many? She asked. Close to 800, he said. Across all connected programs. Her breath caught, just slightly. That's why you delayed the deal, she said slowly. Yes. And you didn't think to tell me? Ethan's expression hardened. Would you have listened? The question hung between them. Alina opened her mouth, then closed it again. She hesitated. You should have said something. I tried, he replied. Just not in a way you were willing to hear. Silence settled again, heavier this time. I would never sign off on something like this, she said, more to herself than to him. But you almost did, Ethan said quietly. That landed. She looked around the hallway again. The drawings, the worn walls, the faint echo of laughter from another room. Her voice dropped. I grew up in places like this, she admitted. Ethan blinked, surprised. Not exactly like this, she continued. Some were worse. Some weren't even safe. She swallowed slightly. Places that disappeared overnight. Kids moved like furniture. No warning. Ethan didn't interrupt. I told myself if I ever had power, she said, her voice tightening, I'd build something that lasted. Something no one could take away. She looked down at the document in her hand. And I didn't even see this. Ethan's tone softened. That's the problem with power, he said. It creates distance. She let out a quiet, bitter laugh. Is that what you think this is? Distance. I think you trusted the wrong people, he said. Her eyes flicked up. Careful. I'm not your enemy, Alina, he said. I never was. Then why let me humiliate you like that? She asked suddenly. Why stand there and say nothing? Ethan held her gaze. Because defending myself wouldn't have saved this place. She stared at him, something shifting again, something deeper this time. And this would, she asked. It might, he said, if you decide it matters. Another long silence. Then Alina folded the document carefully, her movements precise. It does matter, she said. The boardroom felt different that afternoon. Tense. Expectant. Alina stood at the head of the table, the document placed firmly in front of her. We're amending the agreement, she said without preamble. One of the executives frowned. On what grounds? On the grounds that we're not dismantling a system that supports 800 children, she replied. That clause is standard, another added. We can't make exceptions based on sentiment. Alina's eyes snapped toward him. This isn't sentiment. It's risk, he countered. Financial, legal. It's responsibility, she cut in sharply. The room went quiet. We move forward with a revised structure, she continued, her voice steady but firm. A. Protected trust. 25 years minimum. Non-negotiable. That's not feasible, someone said. It limits future flexibility. Good, Alina replied. That's the point. Another executive leaned forward. You're jeopardizing the entire merger. Alina didn't hesitate. Then we jeopardize it. A stunned silence followed. You can't be serious, he said. I am, she replied. If this deal requires us to destroy something that matters, then it's not a deal worth making. And the shareholders? Someone pressed. They'll adjust, she said. Or they won't. Either way, this stands. The resistance didn't vanish, but it cracked. And that was enough. Months later, the air felt lighter. The new building stood just beyond the original structure, brighter, stronger, but still connected. Children ran across the courtyard, their laughter louder than ever. Ethan stood near the entrance, his hands in his pockets as Noah tugged lightly at his sleeve. Is this really ours? The boy asked. Ethan smiled. It is. A small plaque gleamed beside the door. The Mara Row Center. Noah traced the letters with his finger. Mom would have liked this. Ethan's throat tightened. Yeah, he said softly. She would have. Do you think she can see it? Noah asked. Ethan glanced up briefly, then back at his son. I think, he said carefully, she'd be proud of you. Noah grinned. From a distance, Alina watched quietly. No cameras. No press. Just the sound of something that had almost been lost still alive. Ethan walked over to her after a moment. You didn't have to come, he said. I know, she replied. He nodded slightly. Thank you. She shook her head. Don't thank me, she said. I almost signed it away. But you didn't, he replied. She looked at the building again, then back at him. You were right, she said. Some things are worth delaying. Ethan smiled faintly. And some things, he added, are worth saving. For a moment, neither of them spoke. They didn't need to, because the children's laughter filled the silence. And this time, it wasn't fragile.